Oh, there is someone demonstrating for legalization of abortion. Let me engage in a silent prayer. King Selassie I, the leader. Oh, no political agenda on my channel, right? I am sorry. Rasta is not political. Rasta is a movement, you know what I'm saying? Rasta is life. Anyway, victory is the strongest medicine. Or to frame it in the way Nietzsche said it, the best medicine? Victory. Victory is in fact such a strong medicine that we must be very carefully with its application. Because it can obsess us, addict us in ways that are not healthy. But medicine is about becoming healthy, so you need to have the right dose and the right way to applicate the medicine. Before we dive in that topic, I wanna shout out and thank one of my YouTube fellows, companions, pointing out that from narcissistic abuse, from this essential attack on your livelihood, it's not that you only have to find back who you were, save your core, but you will also be changed forever. Hey Weber, old colleague of mine. Yeah. So you will be changed forever from that. In clinically terms, real CPTSD can probably be forever, but it does not necessarily have to be a lifelong impairment. So you can get stronger from it. But yeah, you will be changed, and that is necessary, and that is a sign of becoming more healthy, more vital, more ready for the world. You might be, you might be more mature, more matured, which means you're more careful. You will listen to your intuition more, and the narcissist and the psychopath cannot suppress your uncanny valley reaction to their acting. So when you see a narcissist acting out his shared fantasy, or a psychopath manipulating you, gaslighting you, there will be no chance for them to get you on board, to get you sold for their story. Therefore, you're changed forever. You sacrifice them before they sacrifice you, because that is what narcissistic and psychopathic abuse is all about. It's about their shared fantasy, that they will try to shape it. So in other words, let me reframe this. When you are in physical into physical proximity to a narcissist or a psychopath, you enter a shared fantasy space. In the case of the narcissist, the shared fantasy space of the narcissist's way to relate to objects around him, and you are one of these objects of us. You are a manipulated symbol. You are private own of the narcissist, okay? You are a piece of the narcissist in his mind. An introduct. In the case of the psychopath, you are either an instrument or an obstacle in the goal-driven shared fantasy of the psychopath. So this is very unhealthy, because these people will make you believe that this fantasy that is divorced from reality is true, and that you serve as a part of this, as a piece of this story that has to play out the way the narcissist or the psychopath wants, and this is not good for you. What will happen, okay? Now, this is the transition to the topic of today. What is victory? It's a very strong medicine. Let me first tell you what the wrong application of this, or what the danger of this medicine would be. The danger would be that you are living in a revenge fantasy, and you render victory a victory over your abusers, and this carries only dangerous mistakes. First, these people are not your enemies. These people are mentally sick, impaired human beings. You deserve better enemies than that. Second, living in a revenge fantasy is narcissistic and mentally sick. It is not healthy to live in a fantasy revenge fantasy. This is a mark of slave morality. Nietzsche would say this is slave morality. Slave morality means you have a revenge fantasy. It also is narcissistic, because the narcissist has a grandiose sense of self. He says, I am grandiose, I'm omnipotent, but I'm also a victim, and therefore you don't experience my grandiosity at the moment. The danger of this, the wrong way to see victory as a strong medication is also that when you aim your own actions based on the existence and life reality of the narcissist and the psychopath, the people who abuse you and put you under these humiliation rituals, the humiliation ritual idea is to implement you in their shared fantasy. When you aim your victory based on their reality, you are still directing your life's attention and energy towards them. And this is not a good idea. You don't want to aim your life towards revenge of sick people. This would be sick as well. You want to aim your life towards positive goals. Narcissists and psychopaths have no positive goals. Positive goals mean goals that are detached of other human beings suffering, or any sadistic or cruel ideas of ruling over others or anything like that. That's their goals. And when you aim at taking revenge for something like that, you are part of this negativity spiral. You are driven by death, by people who are driven by death drive, and that's none better than that. Don't become part of a self-defeating strategy. Alright, so now how is then victory a strong medicine? And why should we be very careful with the application of it and not take too much of that? Yeah, it should not obsess us. So fantasy is positive when it leads to tangible outcomes. And then it's not delusional, okay? So we have to distinguish, yeah, we have daydreams that are completely unrealistic and we are aware of them. And then it's fine. It's kind of, let me just dream, that's fine. I know it will lead nowhere, I'm just dreaming. It's okay. You understand the difference between reality and dreaming. But there's also fantasy and dreams where you say, this can become real. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I thought this will never become real, but now I changed something, or my life changed, and now I know this can become very real. And this is dreaming as planning. It means you dream of something and then you aim for it and it becomes real. So, you know, if you go to Nietzsche and you talk to him and you tell him these people have used a shared sick fantasy and I was exposed to that, and then they changed the power dynamic and they humiliated me, they celebrated a victory over me, even though I knew this is not a victory, nothing changed, I'm still the same person, they are still the same person, and so on, but somehow they shifted it using abusive tactics, coercive control, narration control in the public, and so on. Nietzsche will say, I'm not interested in your story. Don't tell me something about how you know, I'm not interested in it. Do you have the power to be who you are? Become who you are? Do you have the power? We're not talking about revenge fantasy or fantasies at all. Do you have the power? So I believe victory means to be so powerful to really see the people who did that to you as what they are, and therefore it becomes easy to forgive them, you know. If you understand, okay, this person has a bad introject, you know, has a bad object introjected in their mind, they feel impotent, therefore they have to play out a fantasy of omnipotence. All of these, when you understand this and you see these people as what they are, you know, depressive, aggressive towards themselves or towards others, there's nothing in between, they can't be self-regulating. When you see that, you understand they are not an enemy, they are not an equal force to me, and this is a victory in itself. Also, something that I have told you is that the humiliation rituals they do is ultimately a humiliation of themselves. So this is self-mortifying behavior. Some of them are sadomasochistic. They engage in, you know, they create a humiliation ritual for you, which is acting out their shared fantasy. But when you stay strong and understand this game, and then you expose them for what they do, the shame switches to them, because it humiliates them to be abusers, to have, you know, so it's necessary. It seems to be necessary for them to do this and abuse other people, and it shows their mental state. It shows who they really are. So if you look at Jada Pinkett Smith making this red table talk with Will Smith, letting him go into a situation, into a trap. He walks in a trap. He don't know what it's about. He thinks he might be able to get an explanation of why Jada is so dysfunctional and ruining her own family. He thinks he might be able to talk about that there, but in reality it's a ritual to emasculate him in public, and Jada enjoys seeing his pain there. Okay, she's sadistic. But when you understand the psychological background, it's actually humiliation, a self-humiliation of Jada Pinkett Smith. I don't know whether she has this masochistic side as well, that she is that this puts her in a kind of thrill to humiliate herself in the public, and then getting a rush of libidinal energy, and then she might engage in the same mistakes she did before just to channel this. I don't know. Okay, it gets weird. But the point is, when you're living in a family like that, it is a cult. And there is one person who wants to shape the narrative. In the case of the Will Smith family, it's Jada. But if Will Smith would go create his own talk show and talk about the psychological backgrounds of why her wife is doing that, and having to coerce him and humiliate him, who is the more successful actor, she uses him to this day to get supply, but the people reject her. So she wants to get a role in a movie. Will Smith already has it, and he tries to help her to get the role. So she humiliates him because he is more successful. He is the better actor. She humiliates him, but he helps her. You see the codependent nature of this and how absurd this is. Will Smith could go and expose her. Why is it necessary for her to humiliate him in the public? Because she feels reality. She feels that she is ruining this whole family. She knows it. She knows that she has a sexual addiction, and therefore she had to get this mentally sick musician, this Algina guy, into the family, a friend of their son, and then sleep with him in order to triangulate with Smith. Her signal was, okay, here is a mentally sick person, but I prefer him over you in order to show you that that I prefer this mentally sick person over you, and I will show this to the public so everybody should see this, okay? But effectively she humiliates herself with that, and Will Smith could break this spell by exposing the psychological backgrounds of that, okay? But in the case of Jada Pinkett Smith, she exposes herself by also, she claimed that she was using a substance, this DMT, and in an ayahuasca ritual, and there she saw, I was acting based on self-hate all my life. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. You are still acting based on self-hate. Yeah. So, to break the spell of the narcissistic cult means to expose the psychological backgrounds and the narrative control that they try to establish. And getting out of this shared fantasy that they try to enmesh you in and make you part of it. And even if you start to compete with the hyper-competitive people now, so a person like Jada Pinkett Smith is hyper-competitive. She compares herself to Will Smith, and that's a mistake in the first place, because Why should you compare yourself to Will Smith? You can never become as successful and as authentic as Will Smith. Never. Therefore, she has to humiliate him. And Will Smith is playing the game because he wants to protect everybody. He is heroic. He is immature. If he was a warrior, he would understand that he cannot save Jada Pinkett Smith, and they sacrifice their own children because he wants to save everybody, but he can't. So part one to break that spell is to speak out the uncomfortable truth about the narcissistic family cult and the psychological backgrounds. And it would not be good to become hyper-competitive with people who should never have started comparing you to them or mentally sick third parties, you know? So Jada Pinkett Smith is mentally sick. Alphonse, or what his name is, Alzina, this other guy she brought in, they are both mentally sick, and she still competes with Will Smith, which is insane in the first place. So don't become hyper-competitive with these people. Your victory does not mean that you have to, your goal should not be to humiliate them back. Your goal is to re-establish reality. That's all. Reality has always been that you're not mentally sick. Reality has always been that you are part of the hierarchy in reality. You have your positions and your abilities, and you're not having to prove it to these con artists, okay? So victory means victory means to re-establish reality, to connect back to your core, save your core. That's what they wanted to attack. And yeah, you will also be changed and develop very new parts of your personality. Okay? So let me try to put it on point now. Through the abuse, you allowed them to establish parts of their shared fantasy, which is a sick fantasy, and you need to suffer to elevate them. This is the parasitic nature of these predators, okay? And victory means to re-establish reality. Therefore, individuation and healing from narcissistic abuse involves reality. You first need to reintroduce yourself to reality. You give away everything, you do the leap of faith, you give up everything that is spoiled by the narcissists, which is all relationships that you have shared with them. They might take your money, your pets, your home, your space, everything, your projects, your ideas, your creativity, everything. You give up all the spoiled things. Then you establish boundaries they can't ignore. And from that point on, it's all a fight for equality. You can enforce equality, and equality alone means a destruction of the shared fantasy. Reality alone, you need just to reconnect to reality, find yourself there, your core, yourself, and the inevitable maturing of the archetype that you are. So you are an archetype, one of the archetypes. And it was immature. And the narcissist and the psychopath used your immaturity. But now, in the years to come, you will implement parts of narcissism, parts of psychopathy, the sides that you lacked, and other parts into your personality. And this means you mature. And victory means to act based on reality. This means you are validated by healthy people as who you are, and the narcissist cannot deny that. This alone is victory.